Thank you for coming to our session on managing anxiety and perfectionism. My name is Casey Gardner, and I am a social emotional learning counselor at Stevens Elementary and Ryan Elementary. Really glad that you were able to come listen. If you have any questions, please write them down so that we can ask them and answer them on the 24th. Wanted to start out with Anxiety Girl, able to jump to the worst conclusion in a single bound. This is pretty common with our kids. Oh, good grief, these tights are too tight. I think I'm going to die. If she doesn't look familiar, maybe one of these kids will. Anxious kids might seem withdrawn or angry, deny that there is a problem, become or seem emotionally numb, play more aggressively, frequently recreate past traumatic situations, avoid new situations, or develop bodily symptoms such as pains, aches, or a racing heart. Emotional icebergs, you could put any emotion on the top. The whole point is that what we see, what the presenting feeling is just one feeling. Below the surface, there tends to be a whole bunch more going on. So a child might look angry, but maybe they're overwhelmed or embarrassed or frustrated or jealous. You just don't know until you dig deeper to find out what's really going on with the child. So we have special considerations that we need to take into consideration with gifted kids. The first one is Dabrowski's overexcitabilities. What this means, it's also called intensities. There are 5 areas where kids tend to be more intense. And with our perfectionist and anxious kids, emotional overexcitabilities often plays a role. So it means that there is an intensity of emotion, a very broad range of emotions. It feels like your body is a mirror of emotions and feelings. There's strong affective memory, fear, and anxiety. Asynchronous development means that your development is uneven. Most kids grow at around the same rate for social, emotional, intellectual, physical, and what they call moral. So, how do you know what is right from wrong? But what happens with our gifted learners is that intellect grows so quickly that the social, emotional, and moral often lags behind. So parents sometimes say that they feel like they're raising 3 kids. There's intellectually, their 7-year-old might look like a 15-year-old, but physically they look 7, and social, emotionally, and morally, they might be closer to a 3-year-old. They might still be hitting or biting because their brains haven't had a chance to catch up yet. So they have heightened emotions and awareness. There's some vulnerability, developmental and psychological differences from the norm. And then we have perfectionism. It means dissatisfaction with anything that is not perfect or does not meet exceedingly high standards. It feels like worry, fear, anger, and anxiety. It focuses on being perfect, not excellent, and it's an all or nothing thing. You're either fantastic or you're garbage, and it's a big issue. We have some things that go together at times. ADHD and anxiety often pair together. And so you have on the ADHD side forgetfulness, trouble completing tasks, difficulty sitting still, might be some hyperactivity, trouble taking turns. Where over on the anxiety side, you have frequent worries, irrational thinking, physical aches and pains, fear of new things. And then when you combine them, if they're combined in a body, they look impulsive, difficulty focusing, attention struggles, there's emotional meltdowns, sleeping is an issue, restlessness, and avoidance. Beneath every behavior, there's a feeling, and beneath every feeling is a need. When we meet that need rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause and not the symptom. This is so important with our kids. Again, it's going deeper below that iceberg. So, with anxiety, what we see is not often what that person is experiencing. We see detail oriented, active, helpful, hardworking, but what they're experiencing is overthinking, people pleasing. They can't slow down, they can't say no, they have poor boundaries, and it gets in their way big time. Many gifted kids find their early experiences so lacking in challenge that they never learn to tolerate frustration or maintain high commitment to an intellectual task for an extended period of time. Their easy learning leads them to expect things to be effortless. And that causes perfectionism because as they get older and the challenges become bigger, they start to doubt their abilities. So they try to do it perfectly, and then we move into imposter syndrome when they can't manage those high expectations. So we really need to keep the kids challenged from early on to try to prevent these things. This is a video on that we use in many schools to teach kids what happens when we're having really strong feelings. So, what they've discovered is that with gifted people, the amygdala is bigger. I've heard up to 3 times bigger. And so, of course, our feelings are going to be bigger. So, we teach a lot of calming strategies at school. I know that was really quick on the brain stuff, but this is really the meat of what we work with. We have a lot of calming strategies that we work with kids on. Your lungs are always with you. So we teach breathing techniques. Hot cocoa is picture a cup in front of you. You breathe in through your nose, smell that hot chocolate, and then it's too hot. So you blow it out through your mouth slowly and try to exhale longer than you inhale. That has a brain connection. The lazy eights is picturing a eight laying down and actually tracing it with your finger. 5 finger breathing is starting at the base of your thumb, inhaling up to the top of your thumb, hold it, exhale down, and then keeping going all the way through all of your fingers. The little kids especially love the 5 finger breathing. Inhale the sense of a flower and blow out a candle is another one. Box breathing is this is more for older kids. You draw a box on your desk or on your leg. You breathe in, hold it at the corner, and then breathe out longer than you breathe in. So it's 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, and then breathe in for 4, and you're just drawing a box or a square. Some people call it square breathing. This is a really great grounding exercise when you're having a panic attack or very anxious. And the key is that we have to say things out loud to connect our amygdala with our prefrontal cortex. So we're going to look around and say 5 things that we see. Well, I see my water bottle, the window, the leaves blowing from the wind, I see the light, and I see my computer. 4 things I feel. I'm a little chilly, I'm hungry, whatever. 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 that you taste. And again, it's important that you name them. This works really well for kids, especially when they've practiced it and their muscle memory kicks in. Reflection strategies. We want to go from this, from success or failure, and not accepting that things can be good enough. So, good enough is a real thing. When you're putting the milk in the fridge, all you have to do is put the milk in the fridge. That's good enough. But if you're having brain surgery, you want to do things your absolute best. So, another way that we talk with kids are we have to do it a microwave way or a crock pot. Is it a quick thing or is it something that takes a long time? We want to flip the scene. So we want to think of the advice that we would have for a friend if they came to us with the same problem. And people who are more tolerant of the imperfections of others are more patient with their own. Will this still matter in 5 minutes, in an hour, at the end of the day, in a week, in a month, in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years? That helps with that perspective. I used to have huge issues at recess with thinking people were cheating in kickball, and I couldn't even tell you what the issues were. A week later, never mind now. I just remember having fun playing kickball. So it's important to help kids look at those time frames and is this really a big issue? It feels big at the time, but often it's really not. So is it worth the stress? Well, we've heard of red flags, so here are some green ones. And these are things we want to give kids all the time. We want to support their personal growth, help them practice self care, help them develop being self reflective, create those long standing friendships, empathy, vulnerability, spirituality of whatever kind. Self sufficiency, we want them to communicate openly, have healthy hobbies, honor boundaries, and self responsibility. These are things that help them grow into responsible, happy adults. So, any final questions? Again, write them down. This was very quick. Write them down and we can talk more on the 24th. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and I hope to see you then. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.